So let me introduce myself for a second before we start. My name is Guy Hasson. I started a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, about 9 years ago, I think, working for Playtech, where I did game design documents for about 80 slot games over 3 years. And then I moved on to Playtika, when Playtika was just a little baby, just young. It was a few months old, successful already. It was before its first exit, which we called the big exit at the time. And later on, now we call it the small exit. And I did the content for Slotomania and for Caesars Casino. Yes, okay. I figured out how this works. And ever since, I've been a social slot consultant for many companies, for over 30 companies, big companies, small companies, old companies, new companies, successful companies, unsuccessful companies, and I've gathered a lot of data over time about what is successful and what isn't. So when you see it says above specializing in popularity, my specialty is finding why people pay, why people stay, to increase retention, to increase monetization, and to increase popularity in general of games. Now, I told you it was a long, long time ago, 9 years ago, and when I started working on this, and lately I've been feeling like my grandparents. As you can tell from my accent, I'm from Israel, and Israel is also a very young country. My parents were both born 2 years after Israel was born, and my grandparents even earlier than that, of course. And when you talk to people my grandparents' age, they say, all of this was swamps, and everything here, you know, there were trees over there, and there was a swamp over there, and there was malaria and stuff like that. And this is what the country looked like about 80, 90 years ago. This is an actual picture, and this is what it looks like now, the same place. And now in social slots, I feel we're in the same position, doing the same thing. We are doing stuff that we could only dream about 5 years ago. We're doing stuff that I told people and people told me that we couldn't do 5 years ago. Many things are possible now, and we're going to talk about them. So today we're going to talk about 3 things that seemed impossible 5 years ago. Now, most people think players pay when they lose money, because we're talking about social slots. So when you lose your money, you want to play more. Some people decide to pay. They don't want to wait for the daily bonus, the hourly bonus, or the gifting run out, or they want to play for big sums of money. However, we can get, and you can get players to pay when the players get money. Now, today I'm going to show you 3 ways to get paying players to pay more. Not to get all players, not the non-paying players, but just the paying players to pay more. Now, the principles I'm about to share have improved payments by paying players by over 60%. So let's start. Why would players pay? 1, obviously, to keep playing, like we talked about. And what else? Reason number 1, to maintain status. VIP players like their status. You give them a gold VIP, silver VIP, diamond VIP. If you're in this field, you know that players like that. They don't just like the benefits of it, which they certainly do. They got a multiplier and special bonuses and special whatever. They also like the fact that they are now gold VIP, for example. Now, what you have to do is you need to create a new status, not necessarily the old one, a status that you can take away from them. So, the more they spend, the more the new status goes up. And when they spend less, you lower this new status. Now, players will spend to keep their status, even if they have billions of coins. And the reason you know that without seeing it is because you go to Facebook groups and you see that in Facebook groups people share and they like to boast. And they show you a screen grab where they got 12 billion, they just won 12 billion, for example, or that they just got to Platinum VIP or stuff like that. They like to share it. They like to boast that they have it to their friends. And when you take that away, they will pay to keep that status even if they have billions. So, like I said, in fact, they will spend because they have billions. That is a thing they want to keep. If you take that away from them, they will spend money, at least some of them, to keep that status. Now, an added plus to this is, when you inform players that they lose their status, that gives you a chance to add retention to your game, because you can send an email a week in advance and say, you know, in a week you're going to lose your status if you don't do something, and that gives them a reason to return to the game, to play the game, and possibly to pay in order to keep their status. So it adds retention, it gives you a chance to communicate with them and bring them back, and it gives them a chance to pay again for something they like. The second reason players pay is it feels good to win. And the stress here is about feeling good, because our players like emotional highs. The best players are addicts. And you feel, when you win, you feel you have an adrenaline rush or a serotonin rush. And during that time, you want to improve the length of time of your rush, and you are slightly drunk. Your ability to make choices is different when you're high than when you're not high. So, winning and spending give emotional highs. Now, you've got two options here. One is winning big. Suppose the player just won big. When a player wins big, he's momentarily high and willing to spend if you offer a great deal. A deal would usually come as in the form of gamification, some sort of game that offers a chance to pay and to play the game. And during that time, they are more likely to accept than they would if they didn't have just one. The next one is spending. When a player spends, he is momentarily high, which is a great time, and willing to spend if you offer a great deal. So, immediately after the player spends, that is the time to put a new gamification, spends or wins, that offers something new, to spend more to get more, basically. That is the right time to do it. And if he spends and if he plays that game, you play again and you offer an even better deal. Let's do it again. And again, with a better deal. And again, with a better deal. And again, every time he says yes, with a better deal. And again, and again, and again, until the player screams, stop. You don't stop this process. You can keep on forever, because it's just math. But the player at some point will say, no more. I can't pay anymore. And by that time, the player has spent 100% more than he planned and enjoyed it. Not 100s actually of percent more than he planned, and enjoyed it. The third reason players pay is players pay to have fun. Players play to enjoy themselves, and they even pay to enjoy themselves. And players will pay for even a good 3-minute game if the game is good enough. And years ago, this is what I was talking about, for example, we couldn't figure out what games to add to slots. Many people tried without alienating slot players, because at the time it was considered, people didn't like it because all the players wanted to do was spin, 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 spin. When you offered another game, people really didn't like it. But today, if you offer the right games, you will be able to monetize. Today it's easy. You've got mini games, bonus games, promotional games, which promotional games means like, you do something for December, so it's a Christmas event, and you have some sort of a Christmas game in addition to the game itself. And you have many companies actually doing this and monetizing from this. Now, so you now know 3 ways to increase payments by paying players. You can use these principles to create solutions that fit your game. And the thing is, it works. Specifically, my solutions have increased payments by paying players by 60%. You can create other solutions if you want. And that is it. Thank you for listening. Questions? It was very short and very instructive, I hope.
When you were talking about the upsell process, were you talking about offering the upsell immediately one after the other, or at different stages in the game?
No, you have to offer it immediately after the sale or after the win, and you have to make it clear that this is true for 30 seconds, which is about as long as the adrenaline rush lasts. 30 seconds, and that's it, it's gone. That's fine, you don't want to pay, that's good. We're not going to repeat this anytime soon. And when you do it again, it's for 30 seconds after you sell. And again, and it's not the same deal, it's always a better deal.
Yep.
So it's harder to say no to a better deal.
Okay, and all these tactics, these are things that you've actually helped implement in different games, or it's not theoretical, it's actually practical?
It's practical, yeah, I did it.
Okay, thanks. I might have blanked out for a second. Can you just quickly summarize the third tactic again that you mentioned?
Let's go back to the board. Players pay to have fun. So basically, the one that shows it is this: mini games. You have mini games where you can either play them or play some of them. You can play some of them without money, and to continue playing with them, you need money.
Right. To monetize the mini games.
Right. You monetize the mini games which are not slot games. It's meta game above the slot.
Right,
game.
so they're in the slot. If I get this right, they're in the slot game. They win a bonus game, and then they finish the bonus game, win however many coins, and then you offer them play the bonus round again by paying.
No, that's not this method. Play again and again. That's the other one.
Okay.
This one you have like shoots and ladders, for example, or whatever. You can have tons of different tiny games. And you can only roll the dice 3 times, but you actually need 6. So you advance a little bit. But to actually win, you need at least 6, for example. So you have to pay for that. Oh, wait for tomorrow. That monetizes well.
Right, okay, so like a mini game from the lobby.
Yeah, from the lobby.
When
you come in
order to play it, they can win certain prizes, and they have to pay in order to play them.
Yes.
And of those 3 different tactics that you mentioned in this talk, is there one which stands out as being like the most effective, or they're all?
The 2 that monetize the most are the first 2 ones. So keeping your status for the really high rollers and payment for everyone is amazing.
Question is, what's the difference in user behavior between classic slots, 3 reel, and 5 reel in behavior?
Between the question is
slots,
between classic slots
5 reel slots and 3 reels.
It's a completely different audience. It's a completely different set of players that they like. There are many attempts. It's a different experience, by the way. There are many attempts. Again, I'm giving you the historic view to create classic slots that work for the social players until old Vegas came along. Even when I worked in Slotomania during its first year, they're still there. In Caesars Casino, we had classic slots. No one played them. People didn't like them. The people that liked the social slots didn't like the classic slots. You don't have enough wins, it's not exciting enough, you usually don't have a bonus, so it's not as exciting. You don't have as many symbols. Sometimes you have just one line, which is really annoying because you get a win once every 7 or 8 spins. So what Old Vegas did, by the way, what they did was they added gamification to their game. They put the feature on the symbol. So for example, you see 2 times wild or 2 times whatever your win on the symbol. So even if you don't win, you see what you missed, which gives the player a high just as high as having won. So if you do that, they did a couple of other things, but that is why that worked. I think you can do classic slots which are very social, but I haven't seen that yet.
If we take classic slots, 3 real with 3 real, reels and put some meta game like bonus game or mini games in this?
It's not about the slot. There were, it depends what you're looking for. If you're trying to appeal to the same audience that likes the 5 reels and get them to like the 3 reels, that's usually not going to work for you. If you want to create a game just for the 3 reels, that will work. You know how to do it. You can copy the others, or you can do an opposite thing and do it social. But you know which audience you're appealing to. When you do both of them, you can do one game. Either you have tons of 5 reels and then do 1, 3 just to see what happens. But you can't do both of them and appeal. Half the audience will not like those games, and half the audience will not like those games. So you should just keep your audience in mind, who are you appealing to. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Guy.